As Trump has recently pointed out,
They want transgender for everybody transgender.
he's of course wrong, as currently only about 1% of the population is trans. On top of that, there are practically no openly trans characters in media, especially accurate, non harmful ones in leading roles. The lack of representation often leads to many transgender individuals being forced to relate their experience with characters who are trans coded, sometimes in terribly small ways. To prove Trump right, only slightly, just this once, I'm starting a series focused on finding media that speaks to the trans experience, ranging from intentional trans messaging slash characters to really stretching the metaphor. So, what better place to start than with the most popular movie at the moment, K-Pop Demon Hunters? Now let's get to translating Rumi. Rumi is straightforward to work with when viewing K-pop Demon Hunters from a queer lens, since her struggle of feeling wrong because she was born different is something practically every member of a minority group can relate to, and anyone hiding a secret, really. She was born half demon, which is something completely out of her control. Similar to how people transition because of their gender dysphoria, a medical condition outside anyone's control, requires them to, due to it being the only viable treatment. Rumi feels absolutely disgusted by her demon patterns at first and feels shame from them despite them not being her choice. Trans people, likewise, don't choose to have gender dysphoria, and they grow up despising the fact that they feel this way. Instead of transitioning and being open, they try to push it down and hide it due to shame. Just as Rumi realizes she's doing later, trans people attempt to cover up the color stuck inside their head because their self-hatred is too strong. Trans people's self-hatred isn't from nowhere. It often comes from what people they trust say about who they are. Rumi is a part of Huntrix, a musical group that's secretly focused on taking down any and every demon. The group has had many incarnations throughout time, and they seem to follow a certain guideline to protect the Han Moon, which is the force protecting the human realm from the demon realm. The group must act in a specific way and complete their goals in a particular manner that has essentially been forced upon them by their predecessors. Huntrix and the predecessors act comparably to how religious groups do in real life. For example, in Christianity, many pastors teach you that you must strictly follow the Bible and God's command. Many of their roles and sermons seem to make sense, so their followers then begin to strongly connect morality to their religion. They believe it creates peace, and thus every rule in the book must be followed to ensure this peace. Many children are thrust into that life and taught religion from a very young age, branding it into them. Their own parents teach them to follow it, just like how Celine, Rumi's parental figure, taught her the rules of demon hunting. Celine also taught Rumi to hide her demon rocks because they are against what the group is supposed to stand for. Rumi would have never hated herself if Celine had never taught her that she was supposed to. Rumi is essentially being manipulated into hiding her scars by a senior figure in her life, resembling how many transgender people are forced to hide their true gender and feelings growing up by their pastors or any other authority figure in their lives. God creates peace, and pastors are God's voice, so children feel they need to listen to everything the pastors say. Trans kids grow up hating themselves because their pastors, and a lot of times even parents, tell them to ignore and push down who they really are for the sake of being righteous. In the same way, Rumi is told by Celine that the only way to protect humanity is to hide her true demon self, and her
faults and fears must never be seen.
Trans individuals realize the people they love don't always love them back, not fully, and not the real them. Rumi's conversation with Celine towards the end of the movie is very similar to what many trans people think about when it comes to parents, pastors, and even religion or God himself.
Why couldn't you love me? I do! All of me!
Grima's attempt to use Rumi and other demons' shame to feast on more souls mirrors how politicians use trans people's shame to gain power. Grima has a lot of demons under his control by using their guilt against them. He uses them to farm more souls, but as far as we can tell, he's the only one who profits off this consumption of souls. He feeds off of people's insecurities to make himself stronger. Similarly, politicians showcase how being trans is evil, often through lies and false narratives. Such manipulation allows politicians to gain power by creating fear in others and pushing unwarranted shame onto trans people. The disgrace they feel causes those people to turn to the politicians for safety and correction. They, of course, provide this safety and correction through more lies. When trans people commit suicide because of the lies being spread by those in power, the politicians use the tragedy they created as a weapon for themselves. They falsify information and say that being trans is psychologically harmful. and causes suicide in young people, creating more power for them to drain from people. Grima and these politicians offer safety and freedom from these feelings of disgrace, but in reality, they're only keeping people from being free. They're the ones actually manipulating people, consuming souls, and creating an empty existence, all to nourish their power. Despite constantly being told it is, Rumi being a demon isn't actually harmful to anyone. Celine, Grima, and even Zoe and Mira initially all pushed and or believed that Rumi being a demon would harm humankind and the Hanmoon. This lie is never proven to be true. In parallel, those in power who benefit from people being fearful of transgender individuals and their followers believe and push that transgenderism is wicked despite no proof at all. Countless studies of trans-inclusive laws and the psychology of trans individuals have shown that being transgender and having gender dysphoria is both real and causes no harm to other people. Rumi being a demon doesn't hurt anyone, doesn't cause the collapse of humanity, and doesn't cause Grima to gain full power. Not a single piece of evidence supports that it's dangerous that Rumi is a demon or that someone is trans. The real threats of Grima and crooked politicians can only be defeated when the world comes to accept that someone being a demon or being trans doesn't harm humanity. However, Rumi hiding her demon side does harm to one person, herself, which is identical to how trans individuals denying and hiding their identity causes harm to themselves. In the movie, we learn that Rumi is losing her voice, which she initially blames on her demon mark spreading. She later discovers that denying her demon side is what was ruining her voice. Rumi's struggle here reflects that of many trans people in their journey to self-acceptance. They often blame their suffering on the fact that they have these thoughts of being another gender. In reality, them not living as their true selves is one of the leading causes of their depression. Rumi misses out on so much, like trips to the bathhouse, and is unable to wear outfits that don't cover her marks because she feels the need to hide her demon side. As soon as she accepts herself, she's able to express herself and do things she never could before freely. Likewise, trans people miss out on truly living and expressing themselves by hiding who they are. Once they transition and live as the gender they were born to be, a lot of their pain goes away. The only pain they will face is from others' lack of acceptance. Rumi and trans people no longer harm themselves by accepting the parts of themselves they saw as monstrous.
No, no more hiding. Don't you get it? This is what I am.
As I've now shown, K-Pop Demon Hunters is very easy to translate into a metaphor for transgender people. While stories with explicitly queer themes are obviously more impactful for today's society, as our mere presence is a form of protest, it's still nice to see ourselves in characters in our movies. Rumi's story of self-acceptance and changing or proving wrong people's negative impressions of her identity is a battle that transgender people face every day. It's a battle that Rumi has won, and I hope it is a battle we can win one day too, so that trans people can shine freely.